Here's what happened. I've been thinking it's been over a decade since I started my first business. And with the amount of habits that I've been sharing with you, it's about damn time that I share with you 3 habits that I would build first if I was starting over today. Because looking back, there have been, I'm trying to even think if I can count them off the top of my head. There have been a lot of moments where I've started over. Some where I felt it was time to start over, and then other times where I was feeling really stuck and feel like I had to shake things up and needed a change. And that probably were not really helpful for me at that time to do the change. But looking back, you learn lessons. So I want to get into these 3 habits that can be a great foundation if you're in a place right now where you feel like it's time to start over. And then I want to actually dive deeper into understanding what's coming up for you for why you feel like you need to start over today. This is Make Burnout Extinct. I'm Robert David Weeks. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I know you can be doing a bunch of different stuff, a lot of distractions that are out there. And so I know you've had a lot of shit, challenges you've dealt with in the business to get to this moment. You got a lot of that shit and challenges afterwards. So it's a moment for you, because I know how much you care about other people, to take a moment to care for yourself. And so we're going to do a deep inhale through the nose, going to release it out through the mouth, stretch it out, sigh it out, release some tension right now that you might be feeling. So here we go. Deep inhale. Oh, I'm feeling it. And out. Woohoo! There we go. All right. Welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. If you haven't done it yet, you can subscribe and follow the show for the latest episodes. I got 2 commitments for you. First commitment is to continue to grow this show. It's now been a little over 9 months since the launch of this show, and it's been mind-blowing to witness the impact this has had, to get your messages coming through, for your experience with listening to the show, watching this show. So by you being a part of this, it wouldn't be possible for where the growth is right now without your support. So thank you. The second commitment I have for you is to be honest with you. I lied so many times leading up to my burnout. After that social media conference that I founded, where 500 people came together back in 2018. And with the lying, I had such an intense amount of pressure I was building up, and I had no way to release. And I was like lying about how many attendees had signed up at the beginning. I lied about how I was feeling emotionally and then physically. I lied of having everything figured out and having to be this perfect person, when behind the scenes, I felt like it was a shit show. So in so many ways, in so many different ways that were coming up. And so what helped me to get out of that, because you can go down these tornado thoughts when that happens, is being brutally honest with myself, brutally honest with other people, and sharing the truth of what was going on. So at the end of that event, honesty became a very important value of mine. And that is a value I bring into this show, of being honest with you for what it takes to make burnout extinct, and to remind you it is possible for you to make burnout extinct. I believe it's so important and can save so much time and energy by being honest. So thank you for being here. Let's jump in. Today, what I want to talk about is, if I were to start over today, had the magic wand, and it was just like you're starting back to 2014 for the first business, what would be the 3 habits I would build first and I'd focus on first, knowing what I know now? Because you could be in a place right now where you feel you got to start over in building this business as an entrepreneur. There's a lot of uncertainty that you experience getting into this line of work. And there can be so many different paths that you could take. I think of the amount of different businesses that are out there is wild to think about. And then with the addition of technology like AI, and then other developments that are happening, it's going to be so wild to think about what the businesses could be like in a few decades or even a few years. And so there's a lot of shiny objects that are out there, and they can be competing to get your attention, for you to go down that path. So you first have to identify, like, why do you want to start over? And I go back to when I was starting my first business, Raz Productions, back in 2014. I was DJing. I just recently graduated from College of Charleston, and I had done. I started off with YouTube videos of just like increasing volume of sound for one video, decreasing the sound of the other one, and like mixing these songs. And people were going wild back then, and it was super cool. And I really liked it. I really liked being able to channel that energy in the room and have people dancing to the music that I'm sharing from from different genres. And so what I thought would be cool is to actually get into the business of being a DJ. And what happened was I got into it for a little while. I felt like I was going to be on the next like Tomorrowland stage or Ultra Festival stage, wanted to be at these big festivals and playing. And that was this big vision that I had because I wanted to do big things. But over time, as I got into the business and I went and did the college parties, I then did like fraternity and sorority events. Mainly, actually, I don't know if I did any fraternity events besides the fraternity I was in. Is what? Oh no, I did do a few. I did do a few fraternity events, but mostly sorority events. And then I got into going in, and I remember I had this one party where it was like a dinner party, and I was DJing for a like for a couple and their friends at their house. And I remembered one event that I did. It was for a sorority, and it was in downtown Charleston. And I remember everyone was like having like people were having such a great time. Like people were dancing, they were definitely drunk. A lot of people were drunk, and there was a ton of people dancing on the stage. And then I just remembered thinking, though, even though it was so exciting, and of course having to deal with like people trying to come in and ask for requests for songs, I I had this thought that came through of realizing like this is when I have to retire from DJing and I have to start over and do something different because I didn't see it being something I can really stay in for the long term, for the long game. I'd been thinking about it for a while, back and forth, and just it did not feel right for something that I could spend the next decade doing. And so I remember after that night retiring, and that was for me starting over. But it was coming from a place of even though this thing was working, and people were having a great time, I knew for me it was the right time to make a change. And so if that is what you're feeling right now in this chapter as an entrepreneur of you are like this is the time for something new to start over, awesome. That's incredible. Like hell yeah. Like this is going to be really helpful for you for these 3 habits. If it's more coming from a place of feeling stuck and things don't seem to be working out for the strategy that you're trying out, you have to ask yourself, how long have you been working at it for this strategy? Because if it's only been a couple of weeks, you got to give yourself more time. Like, we tend to not realize how long it's actually going to take for certain things to happen. It's so easy with the messaging that's out there online, seeing social media posts come through of like, oh, it's so easy, make this X amount in 90 days, or like it was so easy for me to do this or that. And a lot of it, I mean, I'm going to say 99.9% of it is bullshit because it does take hard work. It does take a lot of effort of putting in the reps to really start to master something where then you are able to get to that point where in the business it feels like it's something you've been doing for your whole life, and it becomes easier and easier for newer opportunities to come your way and for you to have the quality of life that you're looking for and that you wanted and the vision you've set out. That takes repetition, it takes effort, it does take time. And usually it's so much easier. I know in my own personal experience, I think it's going to happen way faster than it actually does. So these 3 habits that I want to share with you are going to be really helpful, but you also got to realize, have you given yourself enough time to actually focus on the strategy or focus on the business that you're building? Because looking back at all the times I started over out of a place of feeling stuck and like feeling like the strategy wasn't working, there was someone that was successful in that business. From it being able to be successful of how I look at it, of sustaining that business and having a quality of life that you enjoy, like that you're happy with. And so that can't be an excuse then for me to just give up and be like, oh, this isn't Like, it wasn't working for me. Like, it doesn't work for people, because there's proof that in any of these industries that you get into, and I think for me, one was meditation instruction. The other one was consulting, social media marketing, like these different things that, looking back, there's someone that is doing really well at this. And so if you have given yourself some time to explore this and you want to make the change, okay, then cool. Like, this could be really helpful. But if you still have only given yourself like a few weeks, keep trying it out before starting completely over. How you can now look at these, how you can take these 3 habits is something to add on to what you're focused on and working towards. Okay, these can still be very helpful for you. So I want to set that stage. That's really important to ask yourself that right now, is like, why are you starting over? And then the other thing is thinking back to the pressure balloons. So how I look at the day is like, your nervous system is constantly looking for perceived threats. And how I then take that is thinking about these imaginary pressure balloons that can fill up in my body of stress. It's the signal for my body whenever I feel this pressure where I'm like, oh yeah, shit, there's something that I'm taking in as a perceived threat. And that could look like a fear that I have, of the fear of judgment of other people, the fear of success. What if this actually does work out? And then I have these people that love me or that are in my corner. Are they still going to be in my corner? Or this fear of judgment of, are they going to make fun of me if I go out there and try this new thing? So that's a big pressure balloon that can fill up in my body in the imaginary pressure. The other ones that could be more small are waking up in the morning, wanting an apple. Like, I really wanted a green apple. And then I go and out of green apples. Or I'm getting ready to make breakfast, and then I realize that dishwasher didn't start it last night, and so now it's like, I gotta get these forks out and knives, clean them, clean the plates. Like, I want to be efficient. Those small little things. Those can be these small little pressure balloons, and it just depends on timing of when you experience these. Like, there could be some days where it's just like, oh, okay, dishwasher didn't get to that last night. I'll just clean it real quick, all good. Then there's other days where it can stack up, and you're just like, shit, dishwasher didn't start last night. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, come on. So it depends for timing, for how big these can have, for these pressure balloons can have for impact. But with these 3 habits, I want to break them down for you right now. First one is understanding my emotional patterns. That's a big one. The other one is understanding how to work out and eat foods that are energizing for me. And then the third one that I have for you is trusting my gut through repetition and feedback. I want to break all of those down real quick for you so you have them here. And depending on what's going on for you for starting over, these 3, I think about, with the amount of different business ideas I've tried out, looking at it with the amount of information that's out there and resources that are out there, and especially now with AI and how popular it's getting, and the ease of access to information, it's going to take some time, but you can figure out how to try these different strategies, depending on what type of business that you have. Where I think a majority of the time needs to be placed is on the consistency of staying in the game, the consistency of showing up and putting the reps in to learn, to get better at the skills in the business that you're building. I think of consistency and handling the challenges that are going to come your way is really important. And so that's where I look at energy and capacity for the body. How much capacity can you handle for these unexpected challenges that are going to come your way, where you get the client message coming in saying that they have to stop with the payment plan, to having someone reject you for not, you may take it as a personal rejection, but reject the services that you're providing. How do you, and you don't go down the tornado thoughts of like, there's something wrong with me. You just like, okay, it happens for sales. Got to move on. Or when you put out a piece of a video that you took a long time to make, and you wanted to share more about what you do and who you are, it flops in how you look at it for the data. And it didn't go as you expected. So it's consistency to be able to move through all of that shit. All of it. Because there's a lot of pain in building the business, and pain is inevitable. And so if you can increase the capacity to handle it so that you stay in the game longer and you make the big decisions to get unstuck and move forward, that is going to be serve you for the long term and for you to sustain whatever it is that you are building. So the first one is understanding my emotional patterns. When I'm trying to think now, after my burnout in 2018, I moved back in with my parents, and that's where I told them, hey, I'm not okay. And that was the first time of accepting the emotions that I was feeling, where I looked at it and I looked at it and I just accepted it for what it is. And I was brutally honest with myself. I can't remember a time where I really owned up to that fully before that moment, looking back, where I took away any trying to like change it a little bit or trying to adjust the wording that I'm trying to say, and taking how I think they're going to perceive this. I was just like, this is what's up. And that was a moment to say, hey, I'm not okay. And then by accepting that my emotions at the time, I then, by saying I'm not okay, it was like, okay, well, how do I get better at this for this skill is how I look at it, and understanding my emotional patterns, because there are patterns, certain patterns that have formed based off of behaviors and the results I've gotten from the behaviors. And in many ways I could be rewarded. One example of that was as a kid and feeling like I didn't what I want to say with that. I remember as a kid where if something wasn't going well, like I would then like look to my mom to figure out how to like solve that problem, or like try. I'd have my little ways of if I wanted a little bit more time outside, or like I'd negotiate. That's the word that was coming up. I like negotiate and figure out ways to get more time. And I would use like you could say this. It's like I got into this victim mindset with that. I got into this helplessness of like, people come help me. And like, for me, that my mom, she cares deeply about me. And so at the time she would come in and help. And that as a kid, and then growing up and not changing that pattern, when I got into business, it was a lot of like, where are people to help me? Like I feel helpless here. And that doesn't help you in the long term in building the business. And that's an easy way to then get out of the game, is because you have to be willing to go on this path on your own to get started. Like you have to have this belief that it's possible for you to do this, and that you are going to work on bettering your skills in order to stay in this game longer. And so with my emotions and understanding those patterns, it's really important to look at, for those patterns, what comes up for you for different situations in the day. Like when you're reactive in the morning, let's say something doesn't go well for like something that your partner said or friends sent you a message and like really ticked you off. It's like, why was that? What's the pattern there that you notice for yourself? And when you can just observe and start to reflect more on what's going on, you'll start to notice those specific patterns. Maybe, hey, I didn't have any food in the morning, and that could have caused me to feel anxious because I need fuel in my body. And so then I start lashing out at these small little things that people say. But really the issue for me is that I'm not having any fuel right now. And that's happened for me before. I've gotten hangry. Like that's hangry for you. And so you can think about it as somatic work, nervous system, reset, but it's connecting back to those emotions and noticing. And that can be through body scan is a great way to focus on this skill. Just noticing different parts of your body, like even right now, noticing in my stomach, do I have any tension? Do I have any pressure there? What is the message in the emotions? Understanding that there is always a message in the emotions. Something taught to me by a mentor of mine, John Butcher. And so can I get that message? And then the emotion will then let go. It's your body communicating to you. Your body is on your team. It took me so long to work through that belief of being in intense amount of fear for my body, or in fear of my body, because I would feel like I wasn't in control. But then I had to transfer that belief into realizing my body's on my team, and these nearly 40 trillion cells are doing their thing to support me. And it's fucking incredible and mind blowing at the same time. Like, this is wild. And so when you can start to understand more about why do you feel intense resistance to go and share a video, even though it's something you want to share on social media, why is that? Is that deeper down because of a fear then that comes up? A fear of judgment of other people, a fear that whenever you had put yourself out there in the past, that people rejected you. And so when you can then understand what that fear is, you can slowly put in, and slowly in the standpoint of like, it's going to take time, put in the repetitions to start to change that belief and focus on what are the habits that are going to help to develop the skills where on the other side of that fear for what you're wanting to move towards becomes inevitable and comes into reality. And for videos, it's just taking the time to practice, even without posting, practicing recording a video, and then from there going to the next step and then the next step. And before I think about it, for me, I've done thousands of videos, and now I feel way more comfortable than I did at the beginning to share my honest views and opinions. Not what do I think people want me to say or how they want me to show up, but just truly showing up as me. And I actually understand that more now of like what it means to show up as me. And so this habit is really important to get started. And this is the one I really wanted to kick it off with, is processing your emotions and understanding those patterns. Because then you can start to shift those patterns and what's the word I want to use for that? It's like you're being able to create these emotional states. That's something else I learned from a mentor of mine, John Butcher, where you can create moments of feeling enjoyment as you're building the business, because you know what is going to result for the pattern for that emotion. You can then feel excitement for what you're building and momentum for what you're building, because you understand the pattern that's going to lead into that emotion. And so then, as building anything with any path you take in building business, whatever industry, you're going to deal with so much uncertainty and overwhelm and exhaustion that comes from that. And so if you have ways and patterns to then create some enjoyment along the way, some fun along the way that helps you stay in the game longer, where then externally the results start to match internally the repetition and the work that you're putting in. And that's where then you move to these new levels of success. And then when you can move to these new levels of success, it's then becomes it becomes less painful for you to stay and sustain that new level, because with anything new, it can create uncertainty for the body. And that's where you can get into then the body going into a stress response. And that's where the nervous system can take it as a perceived threat and create this intense resistance. And that's where then this pressure balloon can fill up in the body. And so what you have to remember with these pressure balloons is your focus is to pop balloons, as many balloons as you can in your day, so that you don't hit you go past your maximum capacity. Because how I look at that is that's hitting burnout. And so when you are able to pop a big balloon, like your emotional patterns, and you understand what those are, and you pop a fear of judgment of other people or fear of success, that could have been a balloon that's been built over decades. And so how I think about it for numbers, let's say there's one giant balloon that could equal 100 of these smaller balloons, pressure balloons in the day, where it's the pressure of you didn't get the response you wanted from a client or a potential client of them wanting to move forward with you, right? Like that could be a smaller balloon. But if you have now capacity by popping this fear of success, and you pop that, then instead of maybe just doing 5 sales calls, you're able to do 10 sales calls. You're able to double that. Or instead of just posting 1 video a day, you post 5 videos a day on social media to get the message out. Like it has this really powerful effect. And so that's why, again, for this first habit, I really want to take the time to focus on this. The other one I want to talk about is understanding how to work out and eat foods that are energizing for me. Back in 2021, I talked about before this story where I went to my brother's house. He had in his garage, he has a gym, had a pull-up bar there. And I remembered I could barely do 1 pull-up back then. And I had been someone that played 3 sports in high school, worked out in college. And so I had, as I'd been building the business, I had ignored my health and fitness. And I could feel that from my energy and my capacity to go and do incredible things in the business. Like it was so much harder to go do these incredible things and create these wins for myself. And so when I can have a foundation of my health and fitness, which is something I've been working on for the past few years, and I started on my posture, because with speaking and going on stage and talking to you, it's like I want to make sure that my posture, and I sit down a lot too. I want to make sure my posture, actually, even as I'm doing that, I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta sit up more. But with my posture, that has been really helpful. It's made me feel more energized, and then I can channel that energy into the tasks that I gotta get done in the business. And through movement, you're literally producing energy in the body, which is so incredible when I first learned that. And so if you can create a few minutes between tasks in the business to create movement, and that could just be going out for a daily walk. It could be going and doing a few push-ups or a quick workout or mobility exercises. Then you're able to have a sustained energy source throughout the day. And then by the end of the day, you're not feeling so exhausted and defeated either. And then when you can connect that to the foods that you're eating, and when I realized that there are certain foods that energize me more than others, thinking back to I eat mostly foods or Whole Foods, and then not Whole Foods, the grocery store. That is one of my go-to grocery stores. When I'm eating primarily whole foods and less processed foods, I notice a difference in my energy in the day. And then noticing the types of fruits and vegetables that help me to give me a boost in energy, or the types of proteins, like that has been really cool to start to explore more and notice the differences there in my body. But by having that information, now I can take that energy into the day, and whatever is coming my way, I know what I could do to help to one, create a burst of energy, and then sustained energy to deal with the challenges that are coming in the business. So that's the second habit that I would focus on to build first, or to build for momentum, for a foundation, or to build for the foundation so that I can sustain momentum as I'm building the business. Then the last one I want to share with you is trusting my gut through repetition and then feedback. So many times I would just stay in the planning phase and be like, okay, I'm just going to look at all these different strategies from these experts in the field that I want to go into. And then I'll keep searching more and more and just stay stuck and not actually test as much as I could for what's working through repetition, and trusting my gut and knowing that I got to figure out what is going to be right for me and in alignment for me, based off of what I want for my quality of life in the business, how I want to enjoy my life, because I do want to do that as well, and build the business. And then realizing, then trusting that I can continue to stay committed to something and stay focused on something, because it can be so easy to distract yourself and try different new ideas when you get hit with the resistance of things not working out. And I'm here to tell you, you will inevitably get hit with resistance. Things aren't going to work out. And so you have to then go to those other habits as well to handle and sustain the energy to move through those challenges. But they will be there. And by trusting my gut internally and connecting with, is this something I could see myself doing for the next few years? That has been a great compass for me to continue to move forward down a path. And that's how I feel about this podcast and this show with you. This is how I feel about the work of helping entrepreneurs make the big decisions to get unstuck and to stay in the game longer. I feel that connection to that in my gut of like, this is it for the next few years. And it will change. It changes. Like it'll change at some point. But in this chapter of my life and what I'm focused on, I trust my gut on this. And so through the repetition and then the feedback, that's where I can make my changes, not take a whole new strategy from someone that has no idea what I'm doing in my business and what I'm building for my quality of life. But what do I notice from the people of how they're reacting, my clients, to the people that are getting the messages that I'm sharing? How are they resonating with it? What impact is this having? And then how can I change it slightly here and there for improving what I'm doing? And that goes back to the repetition and feedback, but not having to look way external for that, but internally noticing that. And then what I want to leave you with is this quote from John Butcher, which is, there is no one right way, but there is a right way for you. And so within each one of these, it can look different for how you can break that down. with understanding emotional patterns, you could do a body scan. You could go into breath work. There's meditation. It's getting into somatic works. Like there's different ways, but you can, just do a quick search, figure out something, and then try it out for yourself. And then similar with understanding how to work out and eat foods that are energizing for you. Like that's different. And so it's taking some time to test this out. And then as well as trusting your gut through repetition and feedback. There are different ways to do that. If that's through video that you're putting out there on social media, to going on stage and sharing your message, or in one-on-one work with clients. It looks different. But you've got to take the time to test and try out for you and give yourself that space. And you can just do it for a few minutes each day. Just take, at least 20 minutes to work on this for yourself, and then build that habit of repetition. And then the bonus habit I want to share with you is to celebrate. Celebrate when you put the reps in for these other habits. Celebrate when something that works out that you want to work out, celebrate it. Celebrate when things go well for you, because it reminds them. And I mean by celebrating, physically celebrating. Like I tap both my shoulders, raise my arms up and go, yeah, like here, let's go. Could be a head nod, could be like a fist bump in the air, but physically celebrating. Movement creates energy. And then you're reminding your body and getting into the nervous system of like, you want this. This is exciting. This is fun. And it can be a way for the body to release dopamine, the internal reward, to reinforce this. But what I want to tell you is that if you haven't heard it yet today, I believe in you. No matter what is coming up for you for starting over, you can give yourself that space to focus on these 3 habits. It would be how I would start if I was in your situation right now. These would be the 3 habits I would build first, but you got to figure out if this is right for you, if these 3 habits resonate for you. And then from there, start testing and start trying it out. But you have the capabilities to then listen to your body, notice the signals that your body is telling you for the changes in your behavior and your habits, and then to implement those changes so that you can move towards making burnout extinct. Because again, I want to remind you, it absolutely is possible for you. You got this.